WHIZ News Forum for U.S. Congress, Ohio District 12, presented by Williamson Insurance. Tonight, WHIZ's own George Hyotis will ask questions of both candidates, Danny O'Connor and Troy Balderson. We join George Hyotis now live from the WHIZ-TV studios.
Good evening. I am George Hyotis of the WHIZ Media Group, and this is the 12th Congressional District News Forum. Tonight, our guests are Democrat Danny O'Connor, who is currently the Franklin County Recorder, and Republican Troy Balderson, who in August won a special election for the unexpired 12th District Congressional term of Pat Tiberi, who retired for another job. Here are the rules for tonight's forum. Each candidate will begin this event with an opening statement. Then they will answer questions from me and questions that have been submitted by the public online. There will be a 90-second limit on question responses. Candidates will be allowed a rebuttal, but it will be limited to 45 seconds and at the moderator's discretion. Candidates will also be offered a chance to ask their opponent a question. Finally, the two candidates will have 3 minutes for a closing statement. Earlier this evening, a coin flip determined that Danny O'Connor will begin the forum with his opening statement.
Well, thank you, George. Thank you, Congressman Balderson, for the opportunity to discuss the very important issues that families are facing every single day. What we need right now in Washington, D.C. is someone who's going to fight for you. We need someone who's going to stand up for working families every single day that they're there. Right now, when we look at Washington, we see a capital that's not working. We know that Ohioans work hard. We know that we get the job done when we're given the chance to do it. We need someone who's going to fight for that in Washington, D.C. That means if you're someone who cares about having health care and you have a pre-existing condition, I'm going to fight to make sure that that health care stays in place. Health care is personal to me. My mom is a breast cancer survivor. When she was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 18 years old, she was able to beat it because she had access to quality care. That's something that's worth fighting for. And I can promise you that in Washington, D.C., I'll fight just as hard for your family members as I will for my mom. And if they try and take your health care away, I'll fight back against that. What we hear too much of right now in our political system, with 5 days to go until this very important election, is negativity. We have folks who won't tell you what they stand for. All they want to do is attack, attack, attack. Well, I'm going to stand for you. I'm going to stand for investing in our communities. I'm going to stand for repairing roads and bridges so that Ohioans can get back to work. I'm going to stand for doing the right thing in Washington, D.C., no matter who tries to tell me otherwise. We need independent leadership in our country. We need independent leadership in Washington, D.C. What we have right now is not working. When I'm there, I won't be accountable to big money because I don't take any corporate money. I won't be accountable to corporate PACs because I don't take their money. When these lobbyists try and tell me what to do and they come into my office, I'm going to tell them to get out, because the folks that I'll be accountable are the folks in Zanesville and Newark, Dublin, Mansfield, Morrow County, and everywhere in between. If you send me to Washington, D.C., every single day that I'm there, I'll fight for you. I'll fight for your kids. I'll fight for your retirement that I know that you've worked hard for. People work too hard in this country. We need better from Washington, D.C. than what we're getting right now, and I want to be a part of the solution.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Now, Congressman Troy Balderson with his opening statement.
George, thank you for having me here tonight. This is the channel I grew up watching when I was in Muskingum County. It's now an honor to stand here on this stage as their congressman. Thank you to WHIZ for having us here tonight, and thank you to those who are tuning in this evening. My name is Troy Balderson, and it has been an honor to serve as your congressman since winning the August 7th special election, and I look forward to continue to serve you in a full term starting in January. People often ask me why I'm running at a time in this country when it's so challenging. I'm running because I have a track record of solving problems in Ohio, and I'm committed to tackling those tough problems facing our nation, including creating good-paying jobs, focusing on workforce development, and continuing to address the opioid epidemic. I never expected to get in politics. In fact, I was working in the service department of the family dealership when the former state representative asked me, "Troy, I'm going to be term limited here. You should run for my seat." I looked at Jim and I said, "Jim, are you kidding me? I've never been in politics my entire life." And he said, "That's why you'd be perfect. You have an ag background, you have a small business background, and that's what we need." So, after some thought, I decided to run. And other than my son being born, it has been the greatest accomplishment of my life to serve the people of Central and Southeastern Ohio. In the state legislature, I led the fight to eliminate the largest budget deficit in state history and replenish the rainy day fund, all without raising taxes. I worked with Governor Kasich to enact policies that helped create over 600,000 jobs in the state of Ohio. Ohio is now back open for business again. As a member of Congress, I will continue to work with local business leaders and community leaders working on workforce development initiatives to fill those critical jobs. Our economy is booming. We are #1 in the world again, and we don't want to go back. So this race for Congress is important for all of us. I bring a record of experience and service to my job. It's not about the rhetoric. I'm here to serve each and every one of you.
Thank you, Congressman Balderson. Now, let's begin with some current events. Last week, 14 pipe bombs were sent to critics of President Trump. And this past Saturday, 11 members of a Pittsburgh synagogue were shot and killed. My question, are those events the result of hate-fueled political discussion, social media, both, or what? Mr. Balderson.
Thank you for the question, George. It's all the above. Our society right now is at a very low point, and we all have to be held accountable. When you said all those that are affecting this, it includes us as individuals also. So we all must start working together. And I have that experience. I've worked in the state legislature. I don't look as my fellow colleagues as someone that's Republican or Democrat. I don't go out to my constituents and look at them and see what party they're from. I talk to them on a personal basis. I communicate with them. I start building relationships. And I think that's important that we need to do in this country. We need to start communicating again. We need to start building relationships.
Mr. O'Connor, the same question.
Yeah, there's too much divisiveness right now in this country. There's too much heated rhetoric. We need to be focused on pragmatism and not politics. And I'm happy to work every single day with Republicans. In fact, every single day when I go home at the end of the day, my fiance is a Republican. So I always tell folks that if I can walk down the aisle with a Republican, I can work across the aisle with Republicans. When there's good ideas, I'm not going to ask if those good ideas have come from the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. I'm going to ask if they're ideas that benefit the people of the Ohio 12th District. When it comes to the rhetoric that we have, it needs to stop. The hatred needs to stop. We are better than this. Our country's better than this. Our country comes together in the face of adversity. I'm confident that we can do that again. I'll work with Republicans. I'll work with President Trump on key issues that are impacting our families every single day. I believe in the better angels of our nature, that if we come together, we can fight back against the public health crisis that is the heroin addiction problem that we have. I believe that we can work together on rebuilding roads and bridges in our state. It just takes guts. It just takes courage to do what's right for once in Washington, D.C.
Do you ever think there will be civility in politics? I mean, I hearken back to the days of President Ronald Reagan and House Speaker Tip O'Neill, who would battle during the daytime hours, and then at a Washington function after 5 o'clock, they might be seen having a drink and telling a joke. It seemed like after hours, things became normal again. It doesn't seem like it's that way on either side of the party. Will that ever happen again?
Yeah, I think it will. I think that we can do better, and I think that if we change who we send to Washington, D.C., we need to change our Washington, D.C. that we have right now to have folks who are willing to work across the aisle. My opponent talks about bipartisanship, but there's no record of any true bipartisan legislation that he's passed. He'll reference that he worked with a state senator, Lou Gentile, who's a strong supporter of mine. When the only bipartisanship that you can demonstrate is working with someone who's a strong supporter of mine, that's a problem. And when I go to Washington, D.C., I'll work with the entire Ohio delegation. I'll work with Republicans. I'll work with Democrats to come up with solutions that are going to deliver for the people of the 12th District.
Congressman Balderson, will there ever be civility in politics again?
Yes, we work at it. And it's just like I said prior. I mean, we have to start working on our relationships and communicating. And I have done that. I did work with Lou Gentile. He was the ranking member on energy and natural resources. We carried legislation together. He and I represented a region of Appalachia. Lou and I didn't look at each other as a Republican or a Democrat. And if he supports Danny, that's fine. I understand that. But we still work together. I worked with Sandra Williams up in Cleveland, Ohio, on pieces of energy that we did for public utilities. So I am capable of doing it. I did a pilot program, took an amendment and put it in the 2012 budget when I sat on the Finance Committee in Hocking County for a Vivitrol drug court. The judge down there that I did that with was a Democrat. I didn't look at him as a Democrat. I looked at him as someone that was working for the community of Hocking County, and he had a passion, and we got it done, and that's what matters. So I do feel that it can be done, but it has to be up to us to make the initiative to do it, and I will do that. I will continue to do that.
Is there...
Mr. O'Connor. I mean, Troy, there's no instance where you've ever voted against your party on any significant piece of legislation. That's why we know that when it comes to cutting affordable health care, when it comes to taking health care away for folks that have pre-existing conditions, that you're going to do what you're told to do. When it comes to raising the retirement age and cutting Social Security and Medicare, you're going to do what your party leadership tells you to do because you've never bucked them. You've never told them no. You always listen to them. It's who you're going to work for.
That would be absolutely incorrect. And the
legislation.
legislation.
When have you voted against your party?
Okay, can I finish, please?
Sure.
The legislation that I passed, the legislation that we've been passing in the state legislature for the last 8 years has been really good. The Republicans have set Ohio back on course again.
It hasn't fought back against heroin addiction.
It has fought back against heroin.
Well, why have heroin
because there was bipartisan support in 2009. We shut pill mills down in Southern Ohio.
And why is heroin death? Why have they tripled since you took office?
Danny, we have done a lot of things in the legislature with bipartisan support.
But
over 80%. Danny, it's not great. I mean, this epidemic didn't happen in 8 years. This epidemic happened some time ago.
But you were in office the whole time.
And I've been working my tail off trying to get it done. And
the results aren't there. You talk about results on the rhetoric. Where's the beef?
My result for the Vivitrol drug court down in Hocking County is 93% success.
Well, there's 88 counties in Ohio.
Well, I understand that, Danny, but I am representing my Senate district.
Okay, gentlemen, let's move on to probably the number one issue in the district. It's health care. It affects every single person in every single way at some time in their life. A lot of people say, I can't afford health insurance. And that brings me to a question that was submitted online by Greg Orofino. He says he's a small business owner in Zanesville. He says, our health care insurance has always been expensive for as long as we have been in business. That said, what specifically would you do to help with affordability? With Obamacare, we were finally able to get pre-existing conditions included, and now the Congress wants it gone. Would government-centered insurance be bad as no one wants to get rid of Medicare? Mr. Balderson.
The first question I think you want me to answer is how would Greg put that in his business? There are many ways. Our health system needs to be an open market-based system, and that's what we should focus on. We could also focus on businesses pulling together. When we pull together and we grow as a group, that lowers the cost of insurance. That is the number one issue with health insurance right now. We need transparency with that. And the HSA accounts have becoming more and more popular amongst employers. Part of the tax reform package that was passed, many employers have given to their employees starting up health savings account. Those are very successful. As far as pre-existing conditions, I will always stand to support covering pre-existing conditions. I have never once stated that I would not do that. I will always do that. If there's one thing that we can all agree on, we are affected by someone that we know or have in our family that has a pre-existing condition. And I think that's something that Danny and I can agree on too. We both know we need to cover pre-existing conditions.
Mr. O'Connor, affordability and pre-existing conditions.
Well, I understand where Greg's coming from. I'm the only small business owner who's running for Congress in this race, and I understand what it's like to cover employees and balance a book and make sure that you're able to pay everybody who works really hard for you. But we had landmark legislation that was passed that allowed folks like my mom, like I'm sure Greg or someone in Greg's family, to obtain the health care coverage that they need. And that needs to stay in place. But we saw last year with the American Health Care Act that was pushed by congressional Republicans, which Troy Balderson is a part of. They wanted to repeal the Affordable Care Act that is giving coverage to folks who have pre-existing conditions. That's something that we need to fight back against. We need to make sure that costs are lowered. One way to do that is to make sure that more people are insured. We've seen a record number. We've seen cuts to how much money was spent advertising the Affordable Care Act. It went from $36 million down to $12 million because there's an attempt to sabotage coverage for working families. The biggest problem we have here is there's no accountability to working people. The United States Congress doesn't work for you, Greg. Right now, it works for Big Pharma. It works for health insurance companies. It works for corporations who aren't looking out for your best interests. I don't take any of their money. My opponent does. He'll do whatever they tell him to do in Washington, D.C. When they come into his office, they're going to tell him what to do. When they come into my office, I'm going to throw them the hell out because I'll only fight for you.
Mr. Balderson, if no Obamacare, then what?
Open-based market system. I mean, it can be done. We've done it. A government-run health system cannot work. Government is not in the healthcare business. We as individuals need to have skin in the game. Give them the opportunity to have skin in the game. Who better knows about someone's healthcare than the people that are taking care of themselves? As I said earlier, transparency, patient transparency, healthcare transparency, business polling, open market, and HSAs, they work. And as I go across this district, I hear that. People talk about that, and that's how you're going to lower the cost. I mean, this is the only thing that you can't shop for.
I mean, Troy, you say you oppose government health care. Do you also oppose Medicaid expansion? Because 1 in every 3 people in Muskingum County are on Medicaid. So that means if you're watching at home tonight, look to your right and look to your left. Troy Balderson doesn't want one of you to have health care. You need that health care. We need that health care to ensure that we can fight back against opioids. Folks with breast cancer need that health care so that they can live to see their grandkids. People who work hard, who pay their taxes, who do everything right, need to have health care so that they can live a happy, healthy, and safe life. But when you have folks like Troy Balderson who want to take that health care away, you can't do that. When I'm in Congress, I'll fight for you. I'll fight to make sure that your pre-existing conditions are covered. I'll fight to safeguard Medicaid expansion because I know what it means to people here in Zanesville.
Danny, when we did the state budget, and we look at everything, and I served on the Finance Committee when we did this, over 50% of our state budget is Medicaid. So what do? We go in and we look at it. There are other ways. There is reform methods. In the state legislature, we have reformed Medicaid. We have looked at it. We have addressed issues. We have saved $200 million in the last 3 GAs working on Medicaid and making cost
well,
come
that's
down.
How much a life is worth from someone who doesn't have health care.
You can still provide health care. This is not about taking
1 in every 3
away.
people in Muskingum County are on Medicaid.
I want health care for everybody.
1 in every 3,
I want health care for everybody. I want people to have access to health.
We need more compassion in government for working people.
And we can do that.
Then why do you want to throw people off their health care?
I'm not going to throw them off their health care.
You just said you oppose Medicaid expansion.
That's not throwing them off their health care. That is not throwing them off their health care.
If they don't have Medicaid, where are they going to go?
That is not throwing them off their health care. We have fairly qualified health centers in this community.
Well, you said counties don't even have doctors.
Danny, there are some counties out there that don't.
No, there aren't. If you're watching this tonight, just Google it.
The accessibility.
Every county in your old Senate district has a doctor. All you got to do is go on Google, and you'll find them.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on, unless you have something to add, Congressman Balderson.
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Staying with health, here in Ohio and the rest of the country, the medical community, law enforcement is dealing with the opioid epidemic. And this is an epidemic that is dealing with unassuming young people who may have suffered an injury and end up getting addicted to these pain-killing medications, and it's just exploded in everyone's face. Congressman Balderson, what is something Congress can do to help at the local level to deal with this issue?
George, I can safely say that one of my first votes as a member of Congress this September is I voted for an opioid package that is the largest congressional effort against a single drug crisis in America. And that legislation was drafted by Senator Rob Portman. There are things that we can do still with the opioid epidemic that we're not doing enough of, and we're working on that, and we're going to continue. Number one, no one talks about prevention. We need to continue to talk about prevention. We need to start communicating to young kids the consequences that's out there. We need to talk to the parents so they can recognize it when they're dealing with their children and going over that, and they can educate them, their children also. We need to talk about law enforcement, enforcing those drugs that are sold on our streets. And then, most importantly, the recovery side of it. Here in the state of Ohio, we have opened up more recovery centers in the last 6 years. And we're doing one right now down in Hocking County. I keep talking about Hocking County, which is actually Nelsonville, so it's Athens. But we closed down a prison down there, and we're making it a recovery system. So, I mean, there are things that we are doing here in this state. And by passing this piece of legislation in Congress, that's going to provide more for states to operate with.
Mr. O'Connor, opioids and a solution.
Well, we all know someone who has been affected by the scourge of opioid addiction, and often that goes from a sports injury or a workplace injury, and it turns to heroin. And we know people who have died, folks who are suffering under the yoke of addiction, and we need to fight back against it. You cannot talk to a medical professional or a doctor who won't tell you that the front line of defense against this addiction that we have, that is a #1 public health crisis that we have in our state, the #1 line of defense is Medicaid expansion. That Medicaid expansion exists because of the Affordable Care Act, but Troy Balderson opposes that Medicaid expansion. If you ask doctors, if you ask nurses, if you ask first responders what they need in order to fight back against this, they need treatment for their patients. They need folks who can get on a path to recovery. They also need their government to do their part. They need the government to help out, because when people are left to fend for themselves, we see the boom that we've seen in addiction over the past decade while Troy Balderson has been in office. Medicaid expansion has to stay in place because it's the first line of defense for so many folks who are addicted.
Congressman Balderson?
I stated several ways that we're dealing with this issue, and we will continue to deal with this issue. We can do it through Medicaid, and we can continue doing it through Medicaid. I'm going to take methods from Congress and deal with this issue. Prevention, enforcement, recovery. That is what we have to deal with, and I'm going to deal with those issues. I have done it at the state legislature. I'm sorry to say, we have, under Governor Kasich and this General Assembly, we have been working relentlessly dealing with this opioid epidemic. Is it fixed? No, it's not fixed, but this did not happen overnight. And it's going to take some time to fix this. But the steps that we have taken have been successful, and we're going to continue to be successful. The drug courts that are out there that are still working, 93% effective. We must continue working with those. There's other options out there that we can continue to do, and I will do that. I will look for other options. I will do whatever I need to do to deal with this issue. This is something that we all are dealing with, some way, somehow.
Okay, let's move on. We all look forward to the day when we can retire and have the easy life and make sure that Medicare and Social Security is there for us with hopefully no age eligibility requirements. That seems to change at times. What can you say tonight, Danny O'Connor, that you would do as a congressman to help ensure the solvency of those programs that Americans pay into and certainly expect to get back?
Well, what I think about when I crisscross this district and fight for folks to have a voice in Washington, D.C., is I think of people who wake up every day at 6:30 in the morning, put their kids on the school bus, clock into their job, clock out, help the kids with their homework, people who do everything right. And along the way, they're paying into Social Security and Medicare. A lot of times, these are called entitlements. They're not entitlements. They're earned benefits, and you're the one who's earning them. I'll fight for them never to be cut, not one dime. I'll fight back against any attempt to raise the retirement age. The difference is stark in this case. My opponent said on the record a few months ago that he's open to raising the retirement age. It shouldn't matter what age you are at the point you are that you're at in your workforce. It shouldn't matter if you're someone who's a 20-year school teacher or someone who's coming up on retirement. You've earned those benefits, and they deserve to be there for you. Now, we just saw Congress pass a $2 trillion tax cut that was permanently cut in place for corporations. 83% of it went to the wealthiest 1%. What do they want to do to pay for that tax cut? What does Troy Balderson and congressional leadership in Washington, D.C. want to do? They want to cut your Social Security and Medicare. They want to raise your retirement age. How do we know that? They've said that. They've said that's what they want to do in Washington, D.C. And you can bet everything that you own that when Troy Balderson's in Washington, D.C., and congressional leaders or the vice president or the economic advisors tell him that he needs to vote to cut your Social Security and Medicare and raise your retirement age, he's going to do it because they're the ones who are funding his campaign.
I want part of that bet because I'll win a lot. The first thing that I want to say is I want to make it very clear. For those receiving currently Social Security and Medicare and those coming into it, are not going to change. My mom and dad live on Social Security and Medicare. Do I want it to remain solvent? Absolutely, I want it to remain solvent. Right now, Medicare is going to be insolvent by 2026. What bothers me more than anything, is politicians, all this rhetoric, every couple elections, every 2 years, elections after election, they're going to take this away from you, they're going to take that away from you. They're not going to. They're not going to take it away from you, and they never do. What's the best thing for Social Security right now? It's happening right now. Jobs. People having jobs. There's more money going into the Social Security system right now than there has been in 8 years. We need to continue jobs. The economy keeps us going. When people are working, they are contributing to Social Security. More money that makes it more solvent. That is how we get this done.
Do you guys ever foresee a day when Social Security collapses? Because I know many years ago at a conference, Tim Russert, the NBC newsman from many years ago, said if that happened, there'd be a revolution in this country. Mr. O'Connor?
No, Social Security can and will be solvent if we send the right people to Congress. Mr. Balderson just mentioned that Medicare is going to run out in 2026. That means if you're 8 years away from retirement, he's not looking for a solution for you to have that Medicare and Social Security in place. I'll look for that solution. Social Security has brought in $16 trillion. It's paid out $14 trillion. It's not a part of our budget problem. The problem with our budget problem is folks like Troy Balderson, already since he's been in Congress, he's voted to extend the corporate tax giveaway, to put $2 trillion on our national credit card. The governor of Ohio, a Republican, John Kasich, said it's not real tax reform. It's just a swipe of the national credit card that we're all going to have to pay for. And we know that Troy Balderson, when it comes to balancing the budget, when it comes to shoring up the deficit that we have as a country, he's not going to look out for working families. He's not going to look out for folks who are receiving or soon to receive Social Security and Medicare. He's going to look out for corporations. He's going to look out for the folks that give him checks, $5,000 at a time, because they're the ones who will come into his office in Washington, D.C., or go out to the $1,000 a dinner fundraisers with him and tell him what to do. And when I'm in Washington and they come into my office and try and tell me what to do with your earned benefits, I'll say it again, I'm going to throw them the hell out.
Congressman Balderson.
Thank you. We got into so many different things there. I'm not sure what part to go back to. I do know how to balance budgets. I've done that here in the state of Ohio. I was part of the finance committee that balanced a budget that was $8 billion deficit. We got it done. Did we cut anybody? We didn't cut anybody, and we didn't raise taxes either.
Local government, we did hurt people who are addicted to
Danny,
drugs.
we did not. We fixed a system that was broken. We fixed a system that was broken. Our responsibility in the state legislature, in the Constitution, is we have to have a balanced budget.
Well,
it's
to the people of Ohio.
It is our responsibility.
If someone's addicted to drugs, we need to fight for them.
Exactly. We're going to fight for them.
But I got Medicaid expansion.
Medicaid expansion is not what we're talking about here at the balanced budget.
Well, it's what people who are dying are thinking about and what their families are worried about.
You have to take responsibility. You have to take responsibility for balancing.
So if someone's addicted, it's their fault?
No, Danny, it's got nothing to do with anything.
You just said they have to take responsibility.
We as legislators have to take responsibility to balance, because it's our constitutional amendment that we have to balance budgets. We have to balance budgets. We're not just because you balance.
In Washington?
I'm going to do my best to do that in Washington.
The tax giveaway.
I didn't vote. The tax giveaway is December.
You just voted to extend it, didn't you?
You know what I voted? I did this vote, Tax Reform 2.0. Yeah. That guaranteed the middle class is going to have to do it. So they're going to fall in line with that.
Then why is 83% of it going to the wealthiest 1%?
It is not.
And it's permanent for corporations. Is it permanent for corporations?
No,
it's not.
Danny, corporations are the job creators in this country.
No, the American people are job creators.
Corporations and small business owners are the job creators of this district, of this state.
The middle class is what drives it.
And the job creators create those jobs, and the middle class are there. We need the middle.
The difference couldn't be clearer.
An employer wants the employee.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to take a break, and it's a short break, and when we return, the candidates will have a chance to ask each other a question. Stay with us.
There are a lot of reasons to love banking with Century National Bank, like the warmth that comes with personal attention and sophisticated support from a banker you can rely on and trust. Maybe you like the convenience of our online and mobile tools and the ability to talk to a banker any time of the day or night. For some, it's the longevity of our bankers or our continual support of our community that matters most.
Whatever your priority, you can count on Century National Bank.
Consistency, responsiveness, and expertise. It's our commitment to you.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. These words, penned by Catherine Lee Bates, capture the beauty and diversity of the land that is the United States of America. From Niagara Falls to the Grand Canyon, the Smoky Mountains to the Olympic Peninsula, from the Everglades to Yellowstone, America has been richly blessed. Celebrate America and discover her beauty. From sea to shining sea.
Hello, I'm Connie Williamson with Williamson Insurance, your local Grange insurance agent. As we celebrate America and the opportunities it affords, we would like to say how proud we are to live and work in this great nation. For over 80 years, our agency has been a locally owned business, and along with Grange, has served our local communities and stood by them in times of loss. We take pride in our service to our customers and invite you to experience the benefit of a local insurance agent. Visit us in Zanesville and in Newark.
Is your debt spiraling out of control?
Go to ZanesvilleLawyer.com.
Are you frustrated with debt settlement programs that simply don't work?
Go to ZanesvilleLawyer.com.
Are you in danger of losing your home or car to a creditor? Tired of creditors calling you day and night at home and at work? Did you know that bankruptcy can stop garnishments, repossessions, and sheriff sales? I'm Mitchell Marcheski, attorney at law. To learn about bankruptcy and how it may help,
go to ZanesvilleLawyer.com.
453-8900.
When it comes to insurance, there is no substitute for personal service and attention. With Williamson Insurance, we answer the phone when you call. No buttons to push here. We provide you with face-to-face service and accept payments in our office. We are an independent agent directly representing several companies like Grange Insurance, allowing us to put your interests first when insuring your auto, home, business, or life. Call Williamson Insurance, representing Grange Insurance in Newark and Zanesville.
Open up in your books to page 509.
Wow, that's something.
Nice job, girlie. I'm impressed. I'm good. Remember I told you Miss Brown's going to make you smile this year. You're so super shy. I'm going to make you smile if I tickle you, okay? I never imagined the possibilities.
I never could have imagined the possibilities.
Imagine the possibilities.
Banking. We think it's great. But admittedly, for most people, banking relationships are little more than a necessity. But does that have to be the case? We don't think so. As bankers, the people of North Valley have amassed years of business and financial knowledge that can be of great help to you. And with the rise of things like Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, we now have the ability to share it. So, that's what we intend to do. Introducing NBTV.
Hi, I'm Jeff Williamson with Williamson Insurance, your local Grange insurance agent. We take pride in what our customers say about us and think it's best heard in their own words.
We've had Williamson Insurance for over 50 years. It's their integrity that would give them a 10-plus score.
We recommend Williamson Insurance to family, friends, and anyone shopping for insurance.
The staff is friendly and very responsive. It's the people who make the difference.
Learn more about Grange and what our customers say about us by visiting testimonials at williamsoninsurance.net.
Welcome back to our 12th Congressional District News Forum. We've already introduced Democrat Danny O'Connor, who is currently the Franklin County Recorder and a Democrat, and Republican Troy Balderson, who in August won a special election for the unexpired 12th District Congressional term of Pat Tiberi. Now we've come to the point in our forum where the candidates get to ask each other a question. And we're going to begin with Congressman Balderson.
Thank you, George. Danny, through this process, fundraising has been a big issue, and people are talking about it. You have raised over $7 million. Over 80% of your donations have come from outside the state of Ohio, predominantly a lot of them from California and the East Coast. Democrats want to come in here and try to buy this 12th congressional district. How do you feel?
Well, I'm proud that over 90% of my donations have been from people who've given me $50 or less. This is a true grassroots campaign that is for the people, of the people, and by the people. And I'll proudly stand my record on fundraising up against Mr. Balderson's any day of the week. I don't take corporate money. I can't be bought and paid for by big pharmacies. I can't be bought and paid for by big banks. I can't be bought and paid for by the health insurance companies that are raising your health insurance premiums. I only take money from people like you, and that's who I'm going to be accountable to. There are 7 counties across the Ohio 12th Congressional District. I've done them all in one day. I'm proud to fight for those folks. I'm proud to work for those folks every single day, and when I'm in Washington, D.C., I'll be accountable only to them. Not to corporations, not to folks who throw checks down $5,000 at a time like they do for Mr. Balderson. I'll only be accountable to working families.
Would you like to respond, Mr. Balderson?
I would like to respond to that because, Danny, you have taken corporate PAC money. You have. I have. Danny, we can pull your statement. Huntington Bank would be one.
I gave it back.
You gave it back.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's still in your report. So
well,
you take money, you take PAC money. You've taken over $300,000 in PAC money.
From who?
You know, Danny, I don't go down your whole list.
You probably don't like labor unions because you voted against SB 5.
Danny,
gave people
I think the world of labor unions. I support labor unions.
Well, why did you vote against them?
I didn't vote against labor unions.
That's not my question.
Dan,
you voted against SB 5, didn't you?
Danny, my question to you. I have a rebuttal here, correct?
Yes, you do.
You said only 9% is $50.
Yeah.
Over 80% has come from outside the state of Ohio. The math isn't working for me. It might be $50 donations from outside the state of Ohio. How's it work?
At least they're from people. We're talking about donations from human beings.
You know what this community did for me, Danny? This community got behind me, and they are my largest contributor. This community is. This community has given me over $300,000. That's individuals. That's not PAC money. That's individuals.
So Abbott Labs is Zanesville?
Zanesville is my largest contributor. No big pharma. Is that your question?
You don't take money from big pharma?
Is that your question?
No, my question is, if you had a vote tomorrow, would you vote to repeal the Affordable Care Act?
I would vote to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
And the pre-existing conditions that go with it?
Nope.
Well, that's a part of the Affordable Care Act, isn't it?
There is legislation out there right now that
you just said you vote to repeal it. So.
I would vote to repeal the ACA. There is legislation out there right now in Congress that protects pre-existing conditions.
It's called the Affordable Care Act.
No.
By the way.
Okay, let's move on, gentlemen. If your party, Mr. O'Connor, wins control of the House, who will you support for Speaker? Nancy Pelosi?
No, I will never in any way, shape, or form vote for Nancy Pelosi, not in caucus, not on the floor. The next speaker needs to be a Midwesterner with a mortgage. It needs to be someone who understands our communities, understands our values, understands how hard the people of the 12th Congressional District work. When we're determining who the next speaker is going to be, I'm going to look them in the eye and say, I'll vote for you if you come to this district. If you come here and you tell people that you're going to fight for them just as hard as I will. I'll vote for you if you're committed to investing in our roads, in our bridges, in our schools. I'll vote for you if you're committed to upholding protections for folks with pre-existing conditions. The only way the next speaker will have my support is if they guarantee me they'll stand against folks like Troy Balderson and congressional Republicans who want to raise the retirement age, who want to cut Social Security and Medicare, who want to take away Medicaid expansion, which is the front line of defense for families who are suffering under the horrible yoke of addiction. The next speaker needs to be someone who understands us. Now, when I'm out talking to voters across these 7 counties, I run into more people who care about Dwayne Haskins winning the Heisman Trophy than care about who the next speaker is going to be. The person who cares most about who the next speaker is going to be are folks who are committed and obsessed with Washington, D.C. politics, like Troy Balderson.
Mr. O'Connor, didn't you tell Chris Matthews that you would vote for Nancy Pelosi?
No, I did not. I said 8 times on air that I would not vote for Nancy Pelosi.
Congressman Balderson, who would you vote for? Jim Jordan, possibly?
No. This speaker's, I don't get to vote for speaker. I got to win first. That's my number one priority. Again, I have experience with this. I went through this in 2008 when I first ran for office. There was a speaker's race in the Ohio legislature. I have to focus on winning. There will not be a speaker's vote if I don't win. That's my number one priority, is to win.
So if you win, then who will you vote for?
No one has approached me. I don't know who's even running for speaker.
Okay. Jim Jordan isn't the front runner?
I have not been approached by Jim Jordan. I've not been asked by Jim Jordan. And again, I'm not focused on who's going to be the next speaker. I'm not even paying attention to who's going to be the speaker. That is not all I talk about, Danny. How do you figure? What do you mean that's all I talk about? I don't talk about the speaker.
Okay, well, let's move on to some of the issues that are more local. You know, in the district, a lot of the stuff we've talked about tonight affects people in the district, but it's not really a local issue. And Mr. O'Connor, you're from the western part of the 12th Congressional District. Mr. Balderson is from the eastern part of the Congressional District. What can you say to the constituents on this side of the district that you will even pay attention?
I'd say you live in the most beautiful part of this district. This district is really a composite of the United States of America. And I'll be proud to serve all 7 counties here, because each county has challenges. Each county is dealing with heroin addiction. Each county is dealing with a lack of investment in their community. One thing I notice as I crisscross this district is folks in Zanesville and in Columbus and Mansfield and Newark and Delaware and everywhere in between, they stay awake at night worried about the same things. They stay awake because they're worried about whether or not they're going to be able to pay their mortgage. They worry because they haven't gotten a pay increase for far too long. They worry because they know that there are folks in Washington, D.C. who want to take away their health care if they have a pre-existing condition. And when I'm in Washington, D.C., I'll be a 7-county congressman. I'll be committed to folks from every part of this district, no matter how much money they make, no matter what their background is, no matter what zip code they live in. I'll be a champion for folks in Zanesville, in Columbus, and everywhere in between.
So, George, can I rebuttal there? Because you asked Danny what he would do. What piece of legislation? What would he do for this part of the district? And I didn't hear that answer.
Did you ask about legislation?
Well, the question is, you live on the west side, and a lot of your constituents will live on the east side of the district. What can you say to those voters that you will pay attention to them? You won't be...
Oh, yeah. I'll fight just as hard for infrastructure investments here in Zanesville. Remember back in August when it was really hot and schools had to let out because they didn't have air conditioning. Imagine if a part of that $2 trillion tax giveaway that was permanently in place for corporations, imagine if some of that money was spent on our schools. Imagine if we invested in union bricklayers. Imagine if we invested in air conditioning so that our children could learn in palaces. I'll fight to invest in schools right here in Zanesville. I'll fight for infrastructure here in Zanesville. And I'll be committed to every single part of this district, because in the end, we're all Americans. It doesn't matter if we're a Democrat or if we're a Republican. I grew up in a county that's more Republican than any part of the state of Ohio, in rural, small-town Ohio. My fiance's a Republican. Good ideas don't just come from Democrats or Republicans. They come from everyone.
Mr. Balderson, excuse me, Mr. O'Connor. Mr. Balderson, what will you do to take care of the constituents in the western part of the 12th Congressional District?
Create an environment for jobs. That is what everybody wants. They want a job. They feel good in the morning when they wake up. It gives them dignity. It gives them pride. I went to Walmart one Sunday after church. I went out to the self-checkout, and I said to the lady, I said, "Good morning, how are you?" And she said, "I am fantastic. I have a job." There was nothing negative about that. It gave her a sense of dignity. She wanted a job. In Washington, I'm going to continue to cut regulations. For every one regulation that we have added, 22 have been cut. We are there to create an environment for business to operate. The number 2 thing I'm going to focus on is workforce development. I have a vocational background. I understand. I served on the board here at Mideast many years ago. Our kids are not learning trades. I have to create an environment for them to start learning the trades. We've got to get business leaders and educators to work together and help these kids get a direction. Not every kid is made for a 4-year college degree. We need to continue with the training programs for the adult programs that are out there. We are setting cutting requirements for veterans coming back into service. Those are the things that I want to focus on the whole district also. But that when I say those things, that includes the whole 12th congressional district.
Is there a specific project, large-scale project inside the 12th district that you will focus on as one of your priorities if you're elected to the full term, Mr. Balderson?
Goes back to creating an environment for jobs. Jobs is my #1 priority. You have to create an environment for jobs. And that is my #1 priority. I can make legislation. I'll draft legislation for voc programs and have the ability for students to learn trades and make it more streamlined for them to get into trades, make it more streamlined for businesses so they can get involved with the education programs that are out there and they can be a part of it. So there are several things that I could do.
Mr. O'Connor.
Yeah, there is a tremendous research and development facility in Heath that I had the opportunity to tour a couple months ago, and the mayor of Heath said to me, we could really use a connector here that would allow us to grow even more. That's research and development. Those are jobs that pay good wages. A lot of those jobs are union jobs, and if we could get that connector in place, it would do a lot for southern Licking County and would do a lot economically for folks who need someone to fight for them in Washington, and that's what I'll do.
We just have a few more minutes to talk. It seems to me when I was growing up, people turned to their congressman for help. It seems like the position is now so much more involved with national issues. But can a constituent come to their congressman and say, look, I need a passport like real quick, and I've passed the due time and I need somebody to intervene? Is that the role of the congressman today, to be able to answer and help an individual member of the district? Mr. Balderson.
Absolutely. I've done it. I've done that. I had a constituent out of the Senate district that called and said, we don't know where to go. We need a passport ASAP. I called the congressman that represented them. The passport was done and taken care of, and we had it within the time frame that needed to be done. Yes, that is our #1 priority. We serve the constituents of the 12th district. It's customer service. I understand customer service. From the legislature, that is what I focused on, customer service. We have to service the people in the district, making sure they have the needs that they're asking for in issues. I mean, one of the best things that people can do dealing with worker comp issues or anything that I've done in the state legislature is I can eliminate a lot of phone calls. And I tell people that, here's my cell phone, call me. Yeah. I will help you. That's what we're there to do, and that is my #1 priority, is to serve the constituents.
Mr. O'Connor.
Yeah, casework is such an important thing, and if you have a delay in the Social Security check that you're supposed to receive, or you're a veteran who served your country, you deserve to have a congressman who's going to fight to make sure those things are in place for you. I'm the only small businessman running for office in this race, and I think a congressional office could run like a business. It needs to be streamlined. It needs to be efficient. I run the largest county recorder's office in the state of Ohio. We deal with real estate documents all the time in a fast-growing county. We've implemented customer service that works for people, and it's something that I think, I hope that we can all agree that is a good thing to have for the people of the 12th District, and that's something that I'll absolutely focus on every day.
Well, we all think it's important that the public, your constituents, feel that their congressman is available to help them on an issue that might be just important to them. Well, we have come to the point in the program where the candidates will be given 3 minutes for a closing statement. And we are now going to begin with Danny O'Connor.
Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. In 5 days, you make one of the most sacred choices that you get to make in our American democracy when you cast your vote for who's going to represent you in the United States Congress. And tonight, we've heard a very different vision for this country. I'm someone who, when I'm in Washington, D.C., I'll fight for your family. I won't take money from corporations. They won't tell me what to do. I'm someone who recognizes that if you have a pre-existing condition, if you have breast cancer, like my mom did, and you want to beat it, that you need health care in place to do that. I'm someone who recognizes that if you work hard every single day, whether it's at a factory, whether it's waiting tables, whether it's as a teacher, that you need to have earned benefits like Social Security and Medicare and a pension in place when it's time for you to retire and enjoy your life. We need folks who stand up for the American dream. We need folks who recognize that every single person in this country should be able to achieve whatever they want to achieve from an economic standpoint. But to do that, We need to change who we send to Washington. We need to change what we're getting from our capital. We're better than what we're getting from Washington, D.C. Our Congress is dysfunctional. They don't deliver on the promises that they make. When I'm in Washington, D.C., I can promise you one thing. The person whose back I'll have will be yours. The family I'll fight for will be yours. The people that I'll champion are the people of the 12th District here in Zanesville, in Newark, Columbus, and every part of it. Because in the end, we're all Americans. We're one people. And I recognize this every single day when I kiss my fiancée goodnight, who's a Republican, that we can work together, that we're better than what we've seen, and the problems that we can solve and deal with as a country are great, and we can do it together. Thank you very much. And I ask for your vote on Tuesday.
Congressman Troy Balderson with your closing statement.
Thank you, George. Other than my son being born, serving the people of Central and Southeastern Ohio has been the greatest accomplishment of my life, and I look forward to continuing that service in Congress. For me, it has never, ever been about politics. It's about getting the job done. I'm running because I have a track record of solving problems in Ohio, and I'm committed to tackling those problems facing Congress, including creating good-paying jobs, focusing on workforce development, and continuing to address the opioid epidemic. In the state legislature, I led the fight to eliminate the largest state budget deficit in the history and replenish the rainy day fund, all without raising taxes. I worked with Governor Kasich to enact policies that helped create over 600,000 jobs in the state of Ohio. Ohio is back open for business again. As a member of Congress, I will continue to work with local businesses, leaders, community leaders on workforce development, initiatives to fill these critical jobs. 900,000 jobs are unfilled in this country right now. As I travel the district, I hear story after story about the positive impact of tax reform. Our economy is booming. We're #1 in the world for the first time since 2008. We can't go back. So this race for Congress is important to all of us. I bring a record of experience and service to my job. It's not about the rhetoric with me. I'm here to serve each and every one of you. Being elected and having the opportunity to represent my friends and neighbors has been a real honor, and I remain committed to working relentlessly for the entire 12th Congressional District. Your support of me of this effort is a blessing. With your help, we're going to be successful again on Tuesday, November 6th. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us here this evening.
Gentlemen, it was an honor and a pleasure to have you both here tonight. The first and only broadcast news forum involving both candidates in the same spot, and we appreciate that. We appreciate the opportunity to allow the members of the community to hear your thoughts and your feelings about the important issues that affect the 12th Congressional District. The election is just a few days away. It's next Tuesday. And I think a lot of people are looking forward to their voice being heard by going to the polls and voting. Some may have already done it. Early voting, relatively new way to decide these important issues. So once again, I want to thank you for participating, and good luck on Election Day. That is our program for tonight. Remember, you need to go to the polls if you haven't already voted. The election is Tuesday. That is our program. Thanks for watching, and good night.
On behalf of Williamson Insurance and WHIZ News, thank you for joining us for the WHIZ News Forum for U.S. Congress, Ohio District 12. Good night, and remember to vote on November 6th.
When it comes to insurance, there is no substitute for personal